Part 4. Closer ties with Southeast Asia to counter the China menace. China is the most consequential, existential threat to democracy that the world has ever seen, according to Brigadier General Robert Spalding of the United States. The US has been in decline for decades. The media has been saying this since the 1980s and 1990s. Meanwhile, a rising China currently has territorial disputes with 23 different neighbours, has forcibly taken islands claimed by other nations, and has launched daily cyber attacks against Australia for decades, according to Asia. Australia only exists because we are protected by the USA. If China becomes more powerful than the USA, they can conquer Australia with very little effort. The Australian government has little understanding of its neighbours and little integration into Southeast Asia, but Australian citizens are deeply integrated into Southeast Asia. Several million Australians have family from Southeast Asian countries, and many Australians have family in several Southeast Asian countries. But the lack of government and business integration and engagement with our Southeast Asian brothers and sisters weakens us deeply. We have left the door open for China to infiltrate and debt trap our neighbours, and this could lead to them building a military base on our doorstep. Some of the poorest nations on earth lie right on our doorstep, a situation that China is very ready to exploit. China proposes to build a $200 million commercial fishing port on Daru Island, a mere 200 kilometres from our coast, a place where experts say there are very few fish. China's commercial fishing fleet is part of its grey zone warfare and is often used to deliberately create conflict with the vessels of other nations. In fact, China's fishing fleet is part of the Chinese Navy. Each day that passes, the Chinese Communist Party becomes more and more aggressive, China becomes more powerful, and the chances of a war increase. Australia and Southeast Asia will stand or fall together. Governments will come and go, but it is important that the people of Southeast Asia look upon each other as dear friends. We must conduct joint military patrols with our neighbours, we must build closer relationships with our neighbours, and we must build closer relationships with India. China and India are currently having border disputes, and it is in our national interest to have nuclear-armed India on our side. India's population will eclipse China's population soon, and India's demographics ensure that India will surpass China in GDP in the coming decade, and given time, it is India that is likely to be the more powerful country. To pass up the chance to form closer ties with India would be a terrible missed opportunity for both our nations. The nations of Southeast Asia are so extraordinarily diverse, not merely from each other, but even within each country, that we need have no fear of being trapped in a European Union-style organisation. Just in 45 seconds flat, we can point out that Indonesia is 17,000 islands and is Islamic, Thailand is one continuous piece of land and is Buddhist, Vietnam is one long stretch of land. While it officially has no religion, it is Buddhist, Taoist and Confucian. South Korea is over 50% no religion, 25% Christian and around 18% Buddhist, and shares a land border with North Korea. Japan is 4 separate islands, which are 2/3 Shinto and Buddhist, and that is just for starters. The cultures are so unbelievably different. Furthermore, there are some low-level tensions between these countries. So it is in all of our interests to make much, much, much closer social and military ties with our Southeast Asian neighbours. There is another threat from the Indian subcontinent. Nuclear-armed Pakistan is on the verge of becoming a failed state, and the danger of terrorists acquiring a nuclear weapon and detonating it are very real. Pakistan's current leader, Imran Khan, has turned from a millionaire playboy into a hardline Islamist. Unwilling or unable to face the realities that beset his country, and his stewardship makes Pakistan more dangerous than it has been in decades. Furthermore, the Pakistani military is more dysfunctional than any sane person could possibly believe. It is in our national interest to keep an eye on Pakistan and do what we can to prevent collapse. If Pakistan collapses, terrorists may get nukes. Many lives may be lost. We must build closer ties with India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and all countries within our region. China has a 99-year lease on Hambantota Port in Sri Lanka, where they have built a shipping terminal/naval base, putting Sri Lanka in massive debt. Coincidentally, the Sri Lankan Prime Minister's house has had vast sums of money spent on it. The project's critics accuse authorities of pursuing a model that will turn a key section of the capital into a Chinese colony, discriminating against Sri Lankans, violating labour laws and the constitution, and infringing on Sri Lanka's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Australia and Sri Lanka will both benefit from closer ties in order to counterbalance the Chinese influence in the region. It is imperative for our national security to strengthen our ties with Indonesia and the Philippines. Saudi Arabia is funding extremist Wahhabi religious schools in Indonesia, the Philippines, and right around the world. These schools are teaching that the most extreme form of Sharia law supersedes all state laws everywhere. This Saudi soft power is responsible for terrorism, radicalization, and intolerance all over the world. This has led to rising radicalization across Indonesia and the Philippines. This is a grave threat to the Philippines, Indonesia, and Australia. Many successful Western entrepreneurs have started businesses using products manufactured in China. This has enriched China, but even the Chinese now are offshoring manufacturing to cheaper countries, as Chinese wages are now higher than Indonesian and Filipino wages. If Australian investors can be enticed to offer loans to set up businesses in Indonesia and the Philippines, not only will this take wealth from China and help our neighbours, but the additional jobs it will create in the region will help our neighbours to turn away from radical Islam. The increased ties and loyalty to Australia will assist our entire region at China's cost. Australia has been a passive follower in world events, which means that other countries shape the world. We must become a leader, not a follower. We must shape the world, and to do that, we take inspiration from every civilization in history, learn from those civilizations, and we will emulate their success and prosperity. This will help us shape the wider region, and by extension, the world. When the coronavirus escaped from Wuhan in China, China's disinformation campaign began in earnest. The World Health Organization utterly disgraced itself with its dishonest lick-spittle attempts to cover for China and its refusal to act independently. On the 6th of June 2021, two of the world's most renowned scientists claimed that the SARS-CoV-2 virus has the genetic fingerprints of a lab-origin virus. They said the presence of a particular gene sequence, CGG, indicates a lab-origin virus. Facebook, Twitter, and Google censored the information on the lab leak theory, just as they have censored the internet for many years at China's request. The World Health Organization has proven to be in China's back pocket, and their corruption, incompetence, and denials have dramatically increased the worldwide death toll. The coronavirus has devastated the world's economy and killed 5 million people. We have China to blame. China's massive Belt and Road project presents a clear danger to Australia. Their string of pearls bases, disguised as shipping ports, but backed up by massive infrastructure, ready to turn them into naval bases, are located at strategically important maritime choke points. The Strait of Mandeb, the Strait of Malacca, Strait of Hormuz, the Lombok Strait, as well as other strategic bases in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, the Maldives, and Somalia make it very clear that China will soon have a permanent military presence in the Indian Ocean. Experts predict China will soon be able to carry out expeditionary war in the Indian Ocean, leaving Australia's vast west coast completely unprotected. On the 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre, 3 Chinese warships arrived unannounced in Sydney Harbour. China can enter our territory at will. Our only chance of survival against this violent, nuclear-armed world power lies in closer ties with our neighbours. We will stand together, or we will all fall.